Please maintain silence for the next 20 seconds. We will begin recording. Please maintain silence in the audience and at the dais. Microphones are hot in the audience and at the dais for 20 seconds. Please also mute your cell phones. Good morning and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Water and Power Commissioners. Today is Tuesday, September 10th, 2024. This proceeding is being broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. Board of Water and Power Commissioners, please say present for roll call. Commissioner NURIT KATZ. Present. President KATZ. Present. Commissioner LEHRER. Present. Vice President MCGRAW. Present. Commissioner PINDER. Present. 5 board members. A quorum is present. Mr. President.
Yes. No. Thank you. Echoing. Welcome everybody to this meeting of the Board of Commissioners for LEHRER. Before we get into the agenda, I want to express my thanks and gratitude on behalf of the entire commission as well as the city to the incredible work that's been done by the women and men of our power system, and the last 10 days, which have been unique even for LA. High of 120 in Woodland Hills and other parts of the city, and an unprecedented number of outages for individuals that had to be resolved quickly. We still have some, very few, but when you consider the fact that we have, 1.5 million customers, and the outages were 2 or 3 digits worth in terms of volume, and mostly for very short periods of time, some longer than we want, but those are being addressed. It's a phenomenal job by the men and women who work for this department and work around the clock to make sure that the air conditioning works when you need it, and the lights are on when you need it, and the water's there when you need it. But I think given the extraordinary nature of the heat events of the last 2 weeks, it's just been an incredible experience, and we owe a great debt of gratitude to all of the men and women who work for this department. So on behalf of all of us, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And especially on behalf of the men and women who live in Los Angeles and the kids and everybody else. So thank you. Any other comments from commissioners? We'll get right into the agenda.
Just very briefly, I definitely want to echo the gratitude that President KATZ just expressed. It was really difficult weather during this heat storm for our crews to be out there restoring power and working in the heat. So thank you so much for the service. I just wanted to share an anecdote because I attended an event last week, and when you're with a utility, sometimes when you meet people out in the public, often they have concerns to share. But in this case, I met an elder member of our community, and she saw LEDWP on my name tag, and she came up to me and she said, "I love you guys." And I said, "Oh." So
did you bring her to the meeting?
Yeah, exactly. I should have brought her to the meeting, but no, she just shared that her time of use meter has been really helpful, and that the LEDWP staff worked with her on efficiency programs that led to her bill being reduced by, it sounded like about half, and she's saving $600 a month, and she just was over the moon on the efficiency program. So I wanted to say a thank you to our staff. I know we have so many customer programs, and everyone is working really hard to try and address these issues, especially for vulnerable customers, seniors. So just wanted to express my thanks and share that. It was a great moment. So thank you.
After the shock of the initial "Hi, how are you?" wore off and you braced yourself for what was coming, it was nice. I know that feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. We're moving on. Public comment, please.
Public comment is open at this time. Speakers, be mindful that you will have 2 minutes to speak. The first speaker is Siobhan Cooney.
Morning. This was for item N2. Did you want me to speak now or for that item? Okay. Good morning. Siobhan Cooney of Montchamp Meldrum. I'm here on behalf of Forest Lawn Memorial Park Association. I've worked with them for many years on land use and environmental issues. They submitted comments on the MND for the Headworks project, and those were responded to. And Forest Lawn submitted another comment letter this morning. I have extra copies if anybody needs it. There were a couple of changes that DWP indicated would be made to a couple of mitigation measures in the MND, and I think those changes were inadvertently admitted in the MMRP. So the request from Forest Lawn would be that those changes that had been agreed upon would be made prior to any action by the board on the MND and the project and become part of the MMRP. Forest Lawn, as you may know, operates Forest Lawn Memorial Park Hollywood Hills, which is near the DWP Headwork site, has partnered with DWP for many years on recycled water and other issues and provided dirt to Headworks, and looks forward to continued cooperation and sensitivity to the unique use. Thank you.
That will be taken care of.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Mickey Jackson.
Good morning. I'm with AIDS Healthcare Healthy Housing Foundation, and we wanted to thank you for reaching out to us. We sure want to keep the momentum up. I wanted to say a few words, too, about we'd love to be coming up to you and saying, it's great. We've got people housed. We're so happy. So please help us keep the momentum up. We need to get people off the street. I just want to talk a minute about being on the street in this kind of heat. Cleveland Clinic did a study, and over 95 degrees can result in skin burns from contact with the sidewalks. Burn centers are especially busy during heat waves because of sidewalk and pavement burns. So you can imagine what living on the sidewalk and pavement. Oh my God. It just absolutely, as I was going around the city, I just, and with our heat waves now, with our higher temperatures in the summer, it's just even more of an imperative to get people off the streets. More people die from extreme heat, not just in Los Angeles, who live on the streets, who are unhoused, than do from cold. Because you can put on more clothes, you can wrap yourself in more blankets if you're lucky enough to have them or find them. Or, thanks to our governor, it hasn't all been taken away from you. But you can't do much about the heat. And now we're moving people. I know this isn't the DWP, but we're moving people out from under the only shade they can find, which is under an overpass. And so it's just a tremendous imperative to get people off the street. And, what it's like to know you have those rooms, and they're nice rooms, and they're empty, is just really awful. And again, I want to extend to any and all of you, anytime you want to take a tour through any of our housing, I'd be happy, or someone else at HF, to show you we have some terrific historic buildings, and we've done what we can to preserve them. And we have buildings that are on the history list here in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I comment, Mr. President?
Sure.
So I know the comments have been coming in, and we're preparing, like I promised last time, we're preparing a background information on you. We usually don't respond to public comments, but in this case, I just want to say that I personally went to the site. I've been monitoring this situation for that building. So the idea that there's 158 units there, the old Barclays Hotel is what we're talking about. So this is a 100-year-old building that has those units. Over time, these units have been overloaded. It's like having a power strip that you plug in your heater, your coffee maker, your air conditioning, and it trips.
So people still do that?
Yeah.
No.
So the building has been overloaded with a lot of the new usages, air conditioning and stuff. The building is 100 years old. It has wiring from the old standards that we have that wasn't meant to be overloaded with the new usage demands that this building is wanting to have. So the issue comes down to what our CEO mentioned last time is that we're not going to cross the line on safety. So we're not going to give the permission to add more load to the strip that is going to blow up, and it's going to put people in danger. So we're not going to do that. Having said that, we are all about supporting any project like this to make sure that the units are been adding. I've had connections with contact with building and safety. The request is we have enough energy to provide whatever the usage is, but the equipment on the other side of the building has to accept that additional energy. We cannot keep on plugging the strip that's blowing up with more energy coming in. So these are all issues that doesn't come up on the public comments, but I wanna assure the board that we are all for supporting going above and beyond what's required to make sure that this is done properly, safely, and as fast as we can. Their consultant came in and said that the equipment that they need to put in is 2027 is the deadline that needs to be built in order for us to bring that new strip of power and bring more energy to the strip. That is their target of when they're going to be connected. We're not going to put energy into the building before that, because anything that we do, it's going to be unsafe and it's going to put people in danger. So I know it's hard to say that, but we're not going to cross the line on that.
Yeah, and we wouldn't ask you to.
And we want to make sure everything is done safely. Right now, we think that we are asked to cross the line because of the units have to be in service, and we're not going to do that. So I'm just being very blunt.
Well, and we also have standards that we hold every customer to.
Right.
And so until the standards are met, we're not ready to move forward. But once the standards are met, we'll be right there to start construction.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate both your comments and the line in the sand, because that's one the board would draw as well, the commission. Safety is foundational, and we don't believe, none of us believe in crossing that line. I think people have the impression that just because you can buy a power strip with 17 plugs in it, that it can handle 17 items plugged into it, and obviously a lot of them can't. And so, you cross that line today, and we're fighting a fire in that building tomorrow and putting lives at stake. So,
Yep. Part of the panels that are survived the overload, they're supplying energy to 12 units out of the 158. So partial strip of the power strip that they have is
Right.
being supplied by the energy from the department, and those are being fed by the leftover panels that they have.
Got it.
For us to put temporary power to the building, they have to go to building and safety and get it. Even temporary power needs to be done safely. So they have to pull a permit, and then they have to put the panels properly, and then we will feed them properly. But that preempts the permanent solution that they are desiring to have the 158 units permanently fed. That's going to be in 2027 based on their consultant's forecast.
got it.
Yeah, and obviously, it breaks our heart to hear that there's a single unoccupied unit in Los Angeles when we know we have this huge housing crisis that we're all fighting for. I agree, it needs to be done safely. I really appreciate, Aram and others in the department making, great efforts to try to push this forward, even though some of these things are beyond our control. Aram offered today to meet with his counterpart at DBS to see what they can do to expedite that process for folks in the permitting process. And we'll also speak to the mayor's office about things we can do to make this go a little smoothly, since this is a big priority of hers. But yeah, ultimately it comes down to the fact that we can't endanger people's lives, and so we have to work across the city family to make sure this is done safely.
Any other comments? No, but thank you for that, and look forward to the report, but appreciate what you're doing. I know that you've met with people and on several occasions, and appreciate that you went out there as well. But again, as you said, as Janice said, and everyone else has said, we'll do whatever we can to help people comply, but if it's not safe, it's not safe, and if it's not safe, it's not getting power. All right, anybody else?
Public comments now closed.
Okay. All right, thank you all.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you allow her to respond?
Do you want to make a comment? Miss?
Ma'am?
Ma'am, did you want to respond to that?
Yes, I would. Since it's so irregular to make such extensive comments and debate the non-existent person, because I wasn't here, we never asked for anything to be unsafe. We'd refuse to do it for unsafe. What an awful suggestion.
Well,
No, let me.
no, wait a minute. We're not going to have a debate here about whether it's unsafe or
No,
not.
we'll have
because-
a one-way debate.
Excuse me.
But we
me.
never asked for anything that would be unsafe,
Okay,
ever.
thank you.
We would never. And this is
Thank you.
setting a straw man on fire.
So what unsafe wiring?
If I may, I think what was intended there was more just a discussion of the timeline, not that the team for the project was asking for it to be unsafe, just that we were trying to. Yeah,
Okay.
I think the
Guys,
intent
we're
was
not ha-
just to
okay,
emphasize
we're not
the
having this
challenge.
debate,
Thank you.
okay? Thank you. Anybody else got anything they want to do this morning?
Anybody want to come over and look at my 100-year-old house and its wiring?
Please.
I'm sorry.
Okay, moving right along. Denise, you're up.
Oh, great.
And by the way, you did a great job on the Channel 4 News. I think it was Friday or Saturday night. What I appreciated, Denise was responding in terms of the crisis and working with Joe and the staff through getting out and being as visible as possible and out there as much. What I liked about the explanation in particular, it was one of the few explanations I've heard where you actually explain why this stuff's overheating, which has a lot to do with the fact that it's 105 at night. You know, and we use the night to cool down equipment and let it cool down so we can use it the next day. And when the night doesn't, you know, and you had that in a way that even I understood it. And I thought it was great. It was a great explanation, and for the public to understand, because people go, well, why is it not cooling down, or what's this mean? But thank you for doing that. It was great.
Thank you. So let's start with the heat response. We've had a very busy last 5 days. We've been operating 24/7 and restoration. This has been unprecedented for City of LA. We hit all-time highs in a lot of our days. On Friday, we were 12 megawatts from our all-time peak in the history of LA. We were very, very close on hitting that peak on Friday. And then we hit our all-time high weekend peak load on Sunday by over 77 megawatts. So we've never seen anything like this. 2017 was the closest on that one all-time high, and I doubt it was 5 days of extreme temperatures night and day, right? And so the first 2 days of extreme temperatures, the equipment tends to manage. After the third day, when there's no rest periods from the equipment, you start seeing failures across the board. And it wasn't just transformers. We had cable failures, we had circuit breaker failures, we had substation failures, we had overhead issues, transformers failing. So the whole system was stressed out and managing what we could manage. And at some point, we had to execute rotating outages to protect other equipment so that we were able to restore as soon as the equipment cool off versus actually having to repair, which takes longer. We had all hands on decks, including all our contractors. Our EOC was activated, and a lot of people were part of this response. So I want to give thanks to our emergency management organization. Obviously, power. Water was part of the calls as well because we have critical infrastructure that was impacted as well, or could have been impacted by the outages. Customer service did an amazing job at managing calls, sending active, proactive calls to our customers that were longer than 18 hours and making sure that they were okay in case they needed anything else they could contact you. And I'll leave the guys talk about what else they did. Comms was on point, working on Twitter, working on our social media network, Nextdoor, making sure that we answered to every customer that had questions. And then we had safety. We had no safety incidents during this response, which was amazing, taking into consideration that our crews are working in 118-degree weather. And when they're opening those vaults are even hotter, right? And so we were managing our crews to make sure we didn't have any illnesses or heat stress or any other safety incidents, and they have performed absolutely beautiful. Logistics, trying to get all our transformers and equipment to the yards to make sure that we were able to move the pieces of equipment we needed, but also supporting the crews with water and ice and other things. I can go on and on and on. It was all hands event, and we're still on the event right now. Today, last report I got, we have about 5,000 customers out and 67 outages. And when we talk about the number of customers, they don't seem to be huge, and so people might think, why is it taking so long? The special part of this response that really was surprising was the number of outages. We had hundreds and hundreds of outages, and it takes me the same amount of time if an outage has 2 people versus it has 10,000. It's the same amount of work. And so I have to go over 100 outages restoring and fixing equipment regardless of the number of customers. So you can measure the response based on the number of customers or the number of outages. This response definitely was a number of outages issue, which was larger than the number of resources that we had available. So we had to prioritize based on that. Outside of that, we had 2 critical customers that were impacted. The LA Coliseum during the game, they went down, and we restored about 52 minutes. They decided to continue with the game with limited lighting. And then we had the Hollywood Bowl, and they were out for 3 hours, and that made the news. We were able to restore by 6:30. The concert was at 8:30, but they had called out the concert by 5:30, so we weren't able to give them an ETR because we didn't know what was wrong. And we worked that feeder for hours after the restoration to figure out what else was impacting the bowl. And then we had LAUSD school that was out for over 24 hours, and we were in constant communications with the school.
Janice, and just for 1 second, in terms of the Coliseum, is that something we need to worry about looking forward?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
I've been having a lot of dreams and nightmares over this. when I'm awake in between 2 a.m. calls and 4 a.m. calls and stuff like that.
if it was a USC football game, some of us don't care, but I mean, aside from some really care. But so that's something we'll talk about in terms of the Olympics.
Yeah. And the other thing, we have restored over 130,000 customers so far. So it's a big number of customers. We're trying to figure out the total number of outages since the start of the event to say this is how many outages we responded to, right? Because it requires a crew every time we restore. But with that, I'm going to pass it to Dave to give us more color on what we experienced and, his first heat event as the head of power. So.
Previously, we haven't had heat events like this until he became head of power.
Right. He brought it over to us.
Shots fired. Thank you very much for that. I would disagree with Janice slightly that she can't have dreams because you have to be asleep to have dreams. I don't think she slept this whole weekend. So, just like she said, the numbers were looking pretty good for as far as our total number of customers that were out. But unfortunately, what was causing the delay was the sheer number of outages. So whenever we manage a heat storm, it's very different than how we manage a wind or a rainstorm. For wind and rain, we typically go for the larger areas, the most impacted areas and largest number of customers first. In heat, we prioritize by duration of outage, because regardless of how many people you have on that circuit that's out, they're still experiencing heat stress and could potentially lead to heat illness, and that's very much on our minds. So at this time, we have 13 outages remaining that are over 18 hours, and we've done a great job over the last couple of days closing those out. We do call out all of our civil servant electrical workers to be able to be on scene. We put crews together and dispatch the work, and then once we've done that, that, we have an agreement with our partners with IBW Local 18 to use our contractors, which we started doing Saturday night, Sunday morning. We started having the contractor crews work trouble as well. So just like Janice says, we're very proud that we didn't have any accidents or incidents during the heat storm response, which is still ongoing. We expect to continue our disaster operations center up and running through the evening and probably look at shutting it down maybe tomorrow or Wednesday. But it's been very clear that we won't shut it down and go back to normal response levels until everybody on the 18-hour list is cleared off. So again, just like you said, President KATZ, shout out to the men and women out there working hard in the heat, working to get the power back as quick as they could. They've done an amazing job, and they're continuing to do so today. So thank you very much to all of them.
No, it's great. And also, thank you also to all the people that work inside to get it done as well, who assign the crews, direct the crews, and make sure we have it. So
that's an excellent point. When we stand up the DOC, we have communications right there with us, logistics, supply chain. It's kind of all hands on deck evolution, as we say in the Navy. So it was good to see, and it was very useful. It helped us to be able to just put the items up on the board on whiteboards for tracking, just to be able to see what we were doing.
I'd love to pass it to Joe for the customer and comms team update.
Good morning, thank you. One of the things that's key in these kinds of incidents from a communications and customer service standpoint is not just sharing information, but also helping our customers understand and how to set their expectations. That's something we strive for and will continue to attempt to do better at each time. That's why the level of response that we're at and communicating that so that customers can plan accordingly is so important. So that was a big focus of our communications. We did about 3 to 4 public updates per day that were also shared directly with our counterparts at City Hall, the council offices. When you're not sharing good news, but at least you're sharing information so that they can stay up to date on what's going on and what the operations response looks like. From a key account standpoint, we had someone stationed at the DOC with a direct line to LAUSD on Monday morning specifically to ensure that schools were addressed so that they could plan accordingly. They had a couple incidents on Friday that we got them information on quickly. In one instance, they sent kids home at half day. The other instance, they got restored within that hour and kept kids in school. So that type of tight coordination with Dave and his entire team is extraordinarily helpful to our customers. Last year, we launched a new outage map on our webpage that has a lot more information and detail. That map was hit 15 times the normal level for a regular day over this storm. So it has proved, I think, a helpful resource, even though folks are frustrated with the information sometimes that they look at when their power is out. Just to give you another sense of magnitude, we sent 150,000 community text notifications. Emails were sent out to 72,000 customers. We had an 85 additional customer service reps taking calls throughout the storm. And the amount of reporting of outages digitally online was far exceeded what we got through telephone calls through our IVR, which is good because we want people to have an easy way to communicate with us. We know we can do better in that area, but this was a good sign that those efforts are paying off. I do want to thank our customers, first and foremost, for their patience throughout this, but also our communications and customer service staff, and especially our customer service reps, because they're the ones that are literally listening to people who are at their wits' end, understandably, who are upset, who are yelling, who are angry, and they do have to listen and handle those calls well. We had a number in the 500 plus outbound calls to customers who were out for an extended period. Those calls, I'd hope the number would be higher, but it was low because each of those calls took over 10 minutes to handle because you're dealing with a customer and trying to help point them to resources like cooling centers and what to do and the status of our crews. So we're going to aim to do better. We're going to work together with Power System to try to get information more quickly across the organization and to our customers. And that's some insight into how the customer service and communications operation went this weekend.
And we have sufficient staff, you feel, to respond to these things?
We are in the process of continuously hiring customer service reps. It's a feeder class across the department. So we are ramping that up, and we're not where we want to be, but we are headed in the direction where we need to be.
Well, and I will close this by saying we have an after-action report meeting coming on Thursday, where everybody from the EOC, including all the big players will be part of that discussion on things that went well, things that need improvement, things that we have, things that we need, and how we're going to improve our response, our system, our communications, our customer service. I think every time we have one event like this, it's very important that we have the follow-up to make sure that we continuously improve on our response.
May I? Yeah, I just wanted to comment, again, with gratitude to the team. I know that you've been working around the clock. We are facing unprecedented challenges from climate change, and the unprecedented is getting more common. So, Phoenix just broke a record of over 100 days at 100 degrees, and unfortunately, we are going to have more of this extreme heat in the future. Now, I know that LADWP has been working really hard on programs to support our most vulnerable customers in coping with that heat, the air conditioning programs, the Cool LA programs, but we do know that this extreme heat presents a challenge for infrastructure, and this is nationally, and internationally. We're not alone in this. A recent study found that extreme temperatures from climate could cause 1 in 4 steel bridges in the U.S. to collapse by 2050. So, our infrastructure across the board is facing challenges. We have launched a new board committee, which will be starting tomorrow, focused on sustainability and climate resilience, which is certainly timely here. But I wanted to request also a future board presentation. We can, connect with you, Janice, on the timing, but I think it would be good to have a presentation to this board on what the climate resilience planning is. I know that the team has been working hard. I have a colleague who works on this at SCE, and I know that there's been collaboration regionally between LADWP and SCE on this, but I think it'd be informative to really look at what we're doing in that space in terms of planning for these impacts in the future.
Okay. Noted. We will work on that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and like you said, we've been working on it, but I think we need to revisit the new models and involve some of the industry experts on what they're seeing. How do we change our approach to operations and planning? But you give me a perfect segue, because my second point is about the AC giveaway that happened on Monday. Even though we were restoring customers and we had power outages, we had a huge event on Cool LA in Lincoln Park. It was the biggest event so far. Over 600 people attended. They were really grateful that we were there supporting them. If they ever thought that they needed an air conditioning, that was the perfect day to get an air conditioning. And so people started lining up by 4 a.m. and we had District 14 and LA County Health Department were part of that, and Department of Aging, part of our partners there. So another great event. We'll have another one in October. We put these events on our disadvantaged communities to make sure that they have access to some cool resources. And like you said, Commissioner, this is not going to change, right? This is our new normal now, and it's going to be worse in the future if history has its way.
Are these the kind of air conditioners they can just go and put right in their house, or how does that work, if you forgive me for not knowing?
They're actually mobile air conditioning, so portable air conditioning, so you are able to move them around the room. So if you're in the living room, you're able to move them, and then if you're not, if you want to move it to your bedroom, you can move it at night and just connect the dock to the window. So they're actually pretty flexible, so they're not attached and they don't need any infrastructure changes. They're highly efficient. They're the most efficient units we can find, and so we use our rebates to pay for that. And then we enroll our customers in level pay plans, so they're not concerned about getting an increase on their bill when they use them. And we also, it's for our low-income customers, so if they're not enrolled in a low-income program, they're enrolled in that day, and they get a discount too.
Thank you. Yeah. Very, very well done. Thank you.
The next topic I have, it's about our Watts community. We saw on the news that the Watts community, there was a study done by a nonprofit, and they found lead in some of the water pipes. Our water team deployed quickly after we found that. I want to, and I leave it to Anselmo to talk about the details, but We are highly regulated by the EPA. We have done an amazing job at cleaning our lead from all our pipes, and we tested our water that day, and subsequently, our water is meeting EPA standards by a lot. But we've been supporting the Housing Administration of the City of LA on this process to ensure that we support the testing inside the units and figure out where the issues are. We also deploy hydration units for the community, and we have been very active on the community meetings to educate our customers and ensure that we're part of the solution. So, Anselmo, you want to take it on?
Sure, thank you, Janice. Good morning, Commissioners. So in late August, there was a study that was released. It was a study that was sponsored by the Better Watts Initiative. It was a study of lead in water. It was conducted by a UCLA PhD student, as well as some nonprofits that were helping out. And the study entailed taking around 560 water samples. Of the 564, to be exact, 21 of them had detectable levels of lead, meaning over 5 parts per billion. Now, just to make it clear, these are samples that were taken within the properties. They're on the other side of the meter, basically. They're not part of the DWP distribution system.
So this would be pipes that were put in when the building was built, internal to the building.
Correct, correct. Or the house, because there were houses and also buildings that were tested.
Right.
So there was 564, 21 were found to be at 5 parts per billion or higher. So when we were notified of this and the report was released, the first thing that we did is to confirm what we knew already, which is that we have non-detectable levels of lead in our piping system, because we have been investing for the last several decades in a program to eliminate any kind of lead in our system. One of the things that we have done is any metal pipe that, let's say, was exposed to water, we have a cement mortar lighting program that we implemented a few decades ago and completed. We also lead the nation in replacing meters that had lead with non-lead content meters. So when we did the sampling, once again, it confirmed that we did not have any lead in our system. Subsequently to that, we conducted a second sampling to ensure, once again, and these were done around the housing projects, because there were 4 housing projects that had detectable levels of lead. Nickerson Gardens, Jordan Downs, Imperial Courts, and also Gonzague Village. Those 4. So our testing was in our system around, and we found that there was, like I said, non-detectable levels of lead. Since then, one of the things that...
Non-detectables in our system.
In our system, correct, in our system, despite the fact that the study showed there was lead within those properties and also in some other houses. Now, we did request if we could get the information specifically on which units and the property tenants. That information has not been provided because of privacy reasons, but that is okay. We have been working very closely with the Housing Authority in identifying a couple of things. One, we recognize that obviously folks need to be able to drink safe, reliable water, so we deployed our hydration stations at each one of the housing projects that I mentioned before, so they have a source of water there. We've also have been working with the Housing Authority and the staff that is residing at each one of these locations to do additional testing as well, to make sure that we know what's going on there. So they tested the water at the hose bibs that they have where we connected the hydration stations, and they also didn't find detectable levels of lead, which leads me to believe that more than likely it is within the units themselves, but for that, you need to be able to test it. So the Department of Water and Power has made available approximately 800 test kits that we provided to the Housing Authority so that their staff is able to use those to test. And also, if the property owners want to test, they can do that as well. They'll send a sample to LADWP and we'll be able to run the test. It takes around 7 days to get an actual response on that.
Is HACLA cooperating with us on that?
Absolutely, yes. HACLA is totally cooperating with us.
They're
yes.
reaching out to the resident because they know who lives in those units.
Yes. So we've been working from day one. We have been working with HACLA. As a matter of fact, when the report was first released, there was a meeting with the mayor where LADWP and HACLA were there, and we immediately started coordinating our efforts to make sure that we could support the community. And I did make the commitment that DWP would support by providing testing within the units. Now, just to let you know, we typically provide free water quality sampling anyways, but I wanted to make sure it was clear that DWP was willing to make the extra effort to make it happen. So we have been providing that support, which has been really great. We have a number of public meetings that DWP staff has been attending. We've already met with Imperial Courts, Jordan Downs, Nicholson Gardens. Also, we had a community meeting, and just today, there was a meeting with Gonzac Village, and later today, we might be meeting with the Watts Neighborhood Council as well. So we've been providing a lot of information to folks on what they need to do. If they want or they prefer the department do the testing, they can call. We have a phone number and an email that they can use, and I want to share that so that anybody who's listening and viewing this meeting has the information. It's 213-367-3182, or they can email waterquality@ladwp.com. Water quality, all one word. And they can request for us to go and do the sampling. So the other thing that we are working on now is we recognize that some of the samples that were showing detectable levels are outside of the housing projects. In other words, they're in private homes. So we're also developing a plan to be able to help in testing also the water in these locations as well. I think that's going to be a group effort, obviously, because of the volume. Although I will say that up to now, since the report was released, we received around a little over 20, I think it's 22 requests for lead sampling. Specifically in the Watts area, I believe we received 19 requests. We've already tested 14. The other 5 are being tested this week. So any request that we received, we basically have handled it already. I do want to thank my director of water quality, Jonathan Leung, who's sitting here in the front. He has been front and center in these. He's been attending every single meeting, providing very useful information, I think, to the community, and also reassurance that the quality of the water that we're providing to our customers is of the highest quality. We recognize that any improvements that need to be made within these facilities is not something that DWP is responsible for, but we certainly can provide assistance in ensuring that they know the needs when it comes to the quality of the water. We also have fact sheets that we put together, both in English and Spanish, that are available to anybody so they know what they can do. So in the meantime, if they want to continue to use the water, we recommend that they flush the system for like a minute before they use it. But, you know, those are some of the recommendations that we have. Joe Ramallo and his staff have been great partners with us in ensuring that we get the message out there so that everybody knows what is going on. We want to be very transparent, but we also want to be very helpful to the community that we serve.
Commissioner Pinder.
Thank you. That's a wonderful report, but as I heard it, and as a person who is always concerned with litigation, the left hand is DWP's water, clean and pure.
Yeah.
The right side is the pipes or the private property problem that has the lead in it. Notwithstanding that it's not our fault, since we are uniting with this private versus public, and we still have lead. People see our facilities out there giving water and sampling kits. We want to clearly document. I'm sorry, I am adverse to litigation when it's not our fault. We want to clearly document where the lead is and where the lead isn't. And if I heard you, it isn't DWP's issue as far as lead.
That is correct, Commissioner Pinder.
So we can continue to do the things that we should do, which are right and cooperative. But at the same time, you should have documentations, clear documentation, that would stand up in a court of law for the public, showing where this issue is.
Yes, Commissioner, and I appreciate that comment. I will say that when this issue first came up, it wasn't clearly being articulated that the issue was more of a premise plumbing issue. And that's an area that I spoke to Joe about to make sure that we could clearly articulate that, because it was really clear to us. The one thing, too, I want to add is that, you know, our drinking water permit is issued by the Division of Drinking Water. And in 2022, they deemed our system to be optimized for lead and corrosion. That's because of all the things that I mentioned before that we've done to ensure that we have a lead-free system. So we are documenting it, and that's the reason why we're also not only testing the water quality within the units and the homes that requested, but also keep testing on our side, because I wanted to make sure that I could look everybody in the eyes and say that we have a system that had detectable levels of lead in it. So we will continue to do so to make sure we got data that is also being done simultaneously, right? So you're testing indoor, inside, and outside at the same time.
All right. I'm sure our legal counsel appreciates those efforts as well, because it will be in his on his desk if we're sued.
He's been very closely partnering with us on this issue as well, right? So he's been tracking everything. I would emphasize the thank you to Jonathan. He's done an amazing job. He's one of the best water quality, if not the best. I mean, he's mine, so he's the best water quality I've met. But he's helped me come up to speed on water quality requirements and standards, and what DWP has done on water quality is above and beyond, right? And so I just want to highlight that, and also all the care that you've given to the community. Same with your team, Joe, just being there, being present, answering questions, I think has been very well received by the community, which helps tremendously. And the other things that we're doing to provide clean water while we figure out what's wrong in the community as a whole, as an organization.
Could he stand just so everyone knows for sure who we're speaking of? Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to add my thanks for your efforts to Jonathan and for Kushal and Kawana's efforts. I think they've been really well received by the community. And I think this is just like it's a really common problem, as Anselmo mentioned. People don't understand the difference between the public water system and the on-premise water system, and the fact that, we don't control what's in someone's house that receives our water all the time, and that's where a lot of contamination in the city is still coming from. For those that don't know, we're sampling every day at 300 different sites on this system for 200 different constituents. We have some of the best water quality in the world, not to mention the country. Our water is safe, it's affordable. I think this department is doing an incredible job of making it available to people, regardless of where they live, regardless of their income, regardless of their race. But we as a country have a lot more work to do to support these communities in getting rid of some of these, legacy technologies that are still contaminating their water in their homes. So I do think it's worth underscoring that, when Janice says congratulations because the department has gone above and beyond to help these communities, it really is above and beyond. Our public duty is to service people's homes with clean water, and we are doing that. So everything above that to support communities with hydration stations, free testing not only that they can do, but that we can do on their behalf. Outside of housing projects in private homes, the kind of liaising work, the hours that you all have put in, just helping community members understand the real sort of complexity of this problem, how to address it, holding their hand through that process, which feels, I'm sure, very scary for people and their kids to know that, something that might be coming out of their tap could threaten their health. So, yeah, I know I'm just parroting what everyone's already said, but really great work. Congratulations. It makes me really, really proud to work for the department.
Thank you.
Denise?
Well, and so my next point is really timely because September is National Preparedness Month. Think about that. And so it's a month that the whole country recognized about having a plan for emergencies and making sure that you're ready for whatever comes our way. And if this couple of weeks haven't shown why this is important, I think it's really important that we take preparedness really seriously. LADWP will be hosting 2 employee events to support National Preparedness Month. We'll have a webinar on September 12th and then emergency preparedness fair on September 17th, which will provide resources and information to our employees on how to have a plan, get ready for an emergency, and make sure that you're prepared. And with that, I would be remiss to not end my comments with September 11, which is tomorrow. It's the anniversary of one of the worst days in the history of America. And I remember where I was when it happened, and I will never forget how I felt after it happened. But I think the silver lining of all of that was how we came together as a country to restore faith and strength and unity to support the victims of the tragedies of September 11th. So I will welcome the opportunity to hold a moment of silence for the victims and the first responders that were in September 11th. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding us. Yeah. Okay. Like calling it a day after all that. But moving right along. Fred?
But wait, there's more. In benchmarking work and tracking staffing over the last 12 years, we've noted that a number of areas have regular continued staffing issues, and that includes electric distribution mechanics, which is formerly known as linemen, and also the customer service representative area. And we have had a continuous problem of increasing or failing to increase staffing in that area. And I think it requires some citywide changes to achieve that. So that should be an important part of the discussion on Thursday. And
If I, Fred, I know Janice has been working on that, and she and I've talked a bunch about somehow trying to get names off a list and into jobs. Seems to be a little hang up there that may have to, as you said, may have to be addressed on a citywide basis.
Yes.
But it is something we're working on, and I agree with you.
I think it's harder than that. I think we have to trigger some nationwide changes in terms of OSHA standards for training, to find other ways of getting more people through the system. One of our bottlenecks is we have a certain number of crews, and a crew can only have one apprentice when a crew is doing live line work. And there's no exception for if they're not working live lines, you can't have more than one apprentice. Why couldn't we have two apprentices on when they're doing not line live work? For example, that's a simple example of what changes that might be undertaken, but really a top to bottom rethink by people who know the details in that training. And it will likely require national level changes, but we have a national level problem in this area. For customer service reps, certainly it needs to be prioritized at the city level. I think that can be solved at city level.
Can I make some comments on the staffing? So I think we're seeing a generational shift with the new Gen Z population that's out there. We see this with our partners from LAUSD. They call them the maker generation. These folks want to make things with their hands and work. All we have to do is figure out a way to, through marketing, is splice that in with the trades, and then we have a ready-made workforce. Our challenge is navigating our civil service process to get them on the clock. We saw some delays in getting linemen, electrical distribution mechanics trying to come back to the city. They were kind of turned off by our mandatory vaccination policy, which drug on for a few years, but luckily that's all gone now, and we've actually seen, I want to say, about 3 dozen of linemen who have left the department have now returned. So I think through a partnership through our LAUSD and our outreach, military recruitment, we've got a good workforce out there. We just have to get them here.
If I can add on the customer service side, we did have a serious problem with a list that was expiring just 2 years ago, actually, almost 2 years ago. And what that did is that ended up with training classes that were too small, significantly. That issue we are in the process of essentially digging out of. by having additional trainees hired to be trained at a time. We typically will do 60 every hiring cycle. This hiring cycle, we started with 88. I think we're down in the low 80s, 84. You lose a few folks through training. So we're in the process of getting out of that slump and getting back to our normal staffing levels and staying on top of those civil service cycles. It's not easy with the rules, but we are in the process of fixing that particular issue right now, Dr. Pickle.
Yeah.
It's encouraging to know that, we need to maximize what we can do under the current situation while we're trying to fix the rules, so we're doing both simultaneously.
Yes, very well said.
Yeah, and it requires changes at multiple levels of government.
But, and I appreciate Dr. Pickle's comments because it only helps us, right? And so rarely you have the ratepayer advocate like hire more people, right? And so we do.
There's such a thing as being too cheap, and I've never had to give a "don't be cheap" lecture to a councilman before addressing salaries at DWP.
Yes. And that's a big undertaking that I'm taking on the workforce strategic plan. Part of it, when we added the chief people officers to start working on strategic planning for a workforce, which will inform the needs from the city to support the department. But we are definitely going to have reform on the speed and life cycle of posting to people in the job. If we were to measure that, I would tell you it's completely out of benchmark and it's not sustainable. So the way that customer service is doing is they're getting ahead of the need because they're taking into consideration attrition and training requirements, right? So we're hiring more people than we might need just to make sure that we cover the gap based on historical.
Given the aging in the department, I mean, there are, not at this table, obviously, but I mean, in terms of the department has a large number of people who are retirement eligible and will be becoming retirement eligible, and we need to actually fix the things in the hiring process before they retire so we can fill those positions
And
as
train
quickly
them,
as possible.
yeah.
And train them to the standards we want to have them trained to as quickly as possible, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed. So it's definitely one of my number one priorities. That's why the first external hire was the chief people officer.
Right. Got it.
There are two industry statistics where DWP generally looks good. Those are SAFE, which is frequency of interruption, and SAIDI, which is the system-wide duration of interruption, whether you are one out or not. There's another measure called KATZ that we occasionally slip on, and that is essentially SAIDI divided by SAFE, or it's the duration if you're out.
Yeah.
And when there are major events like that, we often look bad because of our understaffing. And DWP generally doesn't like to publish that one, but I
asked about it. Ask Dave.
Yes, I have nightmares about Katie. So I do have a presentation coming up at the beginning of October. Mr. Marciano Navar, Director of Power Construction and Maintenance, is going to be coming to the board and do an overview of our Katie response for the substation crews and our efforts to further divide our areas into smaller, more manageable areas with some additional property purchases as well.
We got to get him out of the habit of hiding the last row back there.
Yeah, tips of the finger. I couldn't see the
He'll be
face.
right here next time.
He's full of personality. Don't be fooled by that.
There he is.
These statistics are commonly referred to as reliability statistics, and I always felt the word resilience was a very soft standard until we looked back at the KD numbers in major instances. One of the ways you hide things in these statistics is, those statistics remove major incidents. You mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater. DWP looked particularly bad in 2016 because of a KD-related incident. And how bad? Well, in the 40 or so utilities in California, we were better than Shasta and Truckee. But
Thank God for that.
but we were worse than everybody else, and so it revolves around staffing levels. Yeah.
So just some context on that. So 2016, coincidentally, is right about the time where we started losing a lot of our linemen, our electrical distribution mechanics. We lost 105 of them from 2017 till 2023, until we finally started seeing some people come back. And I think when the 2017 heat wave hit, that was kind of a wake-up call for all of us, and it inspired our summer planning and our resiliency program, where we started to focus on the distribution system and the distribution transformers. So up until that point, we had primarily been focused on renewables and bringing in more assets on the high side. Once we established this business model for upgrading the distribution banks, we saw no station outages for the next 2 or 3 summers. But we still got some work to do. Where we're hanging out there is the 5 kV system. So that's where our efforts are focused right now.
And as long as I'm talking about staffing,
Go for it.
the Office of Public Accountability has gone from 3 professional staff to 1. Camden Collins retired in July. Grant Hogue, the water expert, retired in August. I'm planning on retiring in November, although there'll be some discussions about that. Corn Ferry is out on the street now, hunting for the position after we were able to get a benchmarking of the key positions at OPA so we could challenge the city on its current pay scale for our professional positions. And those discussions will be ongoing with the CAO. I preface those comments by saying those aren't going to apply to me. They apply to the next person. We are trying to set up positions, although vacant, waiting for the next head of the Office of Public Accountability, so it's easier for them to fill positions. And we may need your support with the powers that be on getting the necessary exemptions for some of those positions.
I was going to say, as you know, Janice and I testified before the subcommittee of the council that hired Corn Ferry and about filling this position, about the need to move it along a bit and to get it done as soon as possible. They're in that process, and I know they're moving on it now, and I appreciate your help on that, Fred. And in terms of dealing with the powers that be, I know Janice and I and anyone else up here who can help you will be happy to do that, because we need a robust ratepayer advocate operation.
Now, we're trying to get started before I leave, an update to the total compensation study for DWP. And we used that contract in part to update the 2 positions we looked at for the Office of Public Accountability. So it was good to have that contract in place.
Good.
And,
like I said, let us know what you need, and we'll see how we can help.
and now for comments on agenda items. We support items N3 and N4 for the rates, and we support item N9 on keeping the power system up to date on software, preparing for expansion of California ISO programs like the energy imbalance market. And we note that today's budget, or today's agenda, has over $2 billion worth of contract spend. One of the key ones is the Fairmont sedimentation plant, item 12 and 12, which I've spoken on previously. We support this going forward, and we note that there are report backs regularly on the budget and progress for that project. Given the scale of that project and the fact that it might possibly go higher than $850 million, we think the department should keep closely informed, or the board should keep closely informed on that.
Please. Yes. Any other comments on that? Thank you, Fred, for that. I was going to mention, just, I think you know this already, but just as we get to the item, there was one item coming up having to do with the headwater project, and there was an inconsistency between the errata sheet and the actually the item itself. And we've resolved that, so it'll be consistent. Just I wanted you to know that before we move on. Errata. Okay. So we're now moving on. Thank you, Fred.
Wait a minute, this one.
On item G.
One through 14. In 1 through 14?
1 through 14. We haven't pulled anything off. No, item G, items 1 through 14 for approval, please.
So moved.
Got a motion and
Second?
a second. Thank you.
Commissioner, before we start on that, on N2, why don't we just read in just to make sure that we know that for N2, with respect to.
For the forest lawn fix.
Yes, with respect to the comment we received from Ms. Cooney, thank you. The mitigation monitoring and reporting program, it had an error in it. It will be fixed to reflect what was previously included in the errata as requested. And those relate to mitigation measures NOI 4 and NOI 5. So we'll fix that document so that it reflects what it should be.
Move to approve items 1 through 14 with the changes just described by legal.
All right. I've got a motion and a second. Any members, all members present being recorded as aye votes. Any noes?
No objections.
Those items pass.
No objections.
Thank you. Management reports. What interesting timing for a report on hydration stations.
Good timing there. So, Commissioners, a few months ago, this board requested that staff come and do a presentation on the hydration station program.
Yes.
So today, I have two members of my team here. You probably heard his name a couple of times today, Jonathan Leung, Director of Water Quality. But also we have Kawana Key, who is a Senior Utility Services Specialist, and she is the person that runs our hydration station program. So with that, I want to let them take over.
Thank you.
All right, well, good morning. So I think if there was a theme for this morning's topics, it was how can LADVP safely and legally provide enhanced services for our customers and our community, right? So starting off with the heat storm, Watts, and so, but this mobile, the hydration stations program, I think is another one in that same vein, and I think it's very rewarding for us to be able to participate in it. So I'm going to present a little bit, but I really wanted to be here to highlight Kawana as Ansamo did. So Kawana, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kawana Key. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Senior Utility Services Specialist with the Water Quality Customer Care Team. I'm excited to be here today to talk about our program.
Welcome.
All right. So the main purpose or objectives of our hydration station program is to provide access to clean tap water to all of our residents and customers and visitors. And, that's pretty much the foundational mission of the water system. But I think in light of our conversations earlier today about climate change and more intense heat, there's probably never been a bigger challenge as far as being able to provide everyone in the community, whether they're housed, unhoused, access to not only clean water that's very vital for hydration and revitalization, but also to provide that water in a manner that's very safe and high quality. So those are the dual objectives. It's also to make sure we have an opportunity to provide some outreach to schools and other agencies that we're working with to help them become more aware of what goes on with water quality and treatment, and that hopefully that they can form an informed opinion on whether they choose to use our tap water products. So it's also to support a number of goals that the city has taken a leadership role in as far as reducing plastic waste. And I think there's some stats Kawana talked about. They estimate close to 30, 40 billion billion plastic bottles in the U.S. are used every year, and only 15% of them are ultimately recycled. So I think there's a big need to either ramp up those recycling efforts or perhaps provide an alternative way to deliver that water so that people can avoid not having any of those environmental consequences for that. So there have been a number of motions that have been adopted at City Council dating back to 2019, and I think our hydration station program helped support and advance those goals. And last but not least, in 2020, there was part of the mayor's Green New Deal. There was a goal to install or refurbish 200 hydration stations throughout the public by the year 2025. We actually met that goal back in August of 2022. So part of this idea now is that at that time, the program was referred to as the Hydration Station Initiative Program. But we don't really want to talk about this in the past tense. So I think we're rebranding it somewhat to be Hydration Stations in Public, which was the cover slide, which I think, again, tries to underscore the emphasis that we're trying to have here, which is really making hydration available to people in the places that are most convenient to them and in public spaces. So with that background, Kawana going to explain a little bit more about how the program has evolved and some of the exciting things that are continuing to make this like present tense and not past tense. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jonathan. So I want to begin by showing a few examples of what hydration stations are. So it is basically a water dispenser with a bottle filling mechanism. And pictured on the left is an indoor unit that only has the bottle filler. In the middle is something that everyone has probably seen. We have them here at the JFB, and it has a bottle filler as well as a bubbler. And on the right is an outdoor unit that is commonly used at recreation and park facilities throughout the city. There's a fairly straightforward eligibility for this program. So you must be a non-residential water service customer of LADWP, and LADWP needs to approve the proposed placement of the hydration station. And also it needs to be placed in a publicly accessible portion of the facility. So it wouldn't be in your employee break room, for example. The Water Quality Customer Care Team conducts an evaluation of all the applications based on our established criteria. And, I just want to highlight a couple of them. Number one, our partners must agree to maintain the units in a clean, operable, and sanitary manner. And also, they must install the signage that LADWP provides them. And here's a closer look at the roles and responsibilities for the partners as well as LADWP. So the partners are responsible for purchasing the units, installing them, and again, maintaining them. And the routine cleaning is also a partner responsibility. And on the LADWP side, we do assess that the units have been installed and that they're operational. We also provide outreach and education, and we do spot checking on the water quality, maybe once or twice a year. Obviously, this is subordinate to the partner's responsibility of maintaining the units, in clean and operable manner. And that needs to happen on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, depending on the use. So here's a look at the standard signage that the program has. You've also probably seen this throughout the building and throughout the city. This was developed with the corporate strategies team, and it includes the LADWP logo, the city's logo, and also there's a space for our partners logo as well. And around the community, you've seen some of these. The unit on the left is actually at City Hall. And pictured in the middle is an electronic sign that's at the LA Convention Center. And on the right is an outdoor unit taken at Griffith Park. Okay, so let's talk about how the program has performed. Currently, we've installed or reimbursed over 230 hydration stations throughout the city. They're installed in every council district, and about 65% of them have been installed in designated disadvantaged communities. And we're using the Cal EnviroScreen criteria for disadvantaged communities.
But they're all in the city of LA?
They're all in the city of LA in LADWP service territory.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So in 2020, the Board of Water and Power Commissioners approved additional funding to expand this program, and it brought the overall budget to $5 million. To date, we have reimbursed $1.3 million for projects, and we do have $2.2 million reserved for pending projects and about $1.5 million reserved in unallocated funding.
Is that due to a lack of projects that are out there at this point, or?
Is what, the remaining budget?
Yeah.
Well, I would say that we look closely at all applications that we're receiving, and obviously, we're very selective, but we would like more participation.
Do you have, how much of that do you expect to burn through before the end of the fiscal year?
So we'll talk a little bit more about some of the proposed projects, but we do definitely have certain, several more projects.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome. So the program goals are intended to be achieved through our partnerships. So this partner slide here with all of the logos of our awesome partners showcases some of them I'll call out. So Rec and Parks and GSD were the original partners. And after expanding, we were able to work with Los Angeles World Airports, LA Convention Center, the Community College District, and also LAUSD, just to name a few. I do want to take a moment and talk about LAUSD. It's a really important partnership for us. So last year in September, we entered into an MOU that authorized $1 million worth of funding for hydration stations throughout their schools. In addition to that, we've also agreed on outreach and education with the school district. So far, they've installed hydration stations in 70 schools throughout LADWP service territory. And this work is really supplementing the important work that they're doing on their own. So there's obviously many other hydration stations. They have a comprehensive program that they've been doing for over 30 years to remediate lead and increase hydration stations across their campuses.
If I could ask you, I'm sorry, on that point, this is not an excuse for LAUSD not to clean up their drinking fountains, is it?
No, not at all.
They're still going ahead and are they making progress on it finally?
They are. They're working on it. I know that even though the action level is 15 parts per billion, they have worked to remediate their schools to at least under 5 parts per billion. Right. So that's one of their accomplishments.
But in terms of all the campuses, because there are a lot of them, how many of them are in compliance at this point?
You want to take a step?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they've done actually 3 rounds of sampling for every faucet at every school. So kudos to them for that. There's roughly about 35,000 fixtures that they test. And I think they report back to us typically these last couple rounds, about 7 to 10% end up being above that threshold of 5 part per billion. So they actively work on that. And I think they try to partner with us to come up with a better filtered maybe unit or do some replumbing, or else they'll, if they have no other choice, they'll retire it.
But it's still much like we were talking about with HACLA, I mean, the water that's going into the schools from us meets all the appropriate levels.
Correct.
And they have old equipment or legacy equipment.
Right, and for schools, it's particularly challenging because you could have a pretty extensive pipe network through their buildings, and where there's not good circulation is where you're going to see a lot of extended contact time and leaching and lead forming. So it's something they need to manage, but we'll provide them as much technical assistance as we can.
Thank you.
So we're often asked about the access to water in the Skid Row community. So even though these are not HSIP-funded hydration stations, I do want to spend a moment talking about it. So a little about Skid Row. It is a 0.4 square miles area. It's about 50 blocks. And currently they have 8 permanent hydration stations installed in that area. So we know that there have been numerous challenges with these hydration stations, such as the cleaning and maintenance. There's also vandalism and not necessarily having the resources to have them repaired when they're broken. We've heard reports that the buttons are frequently broken there. So we do work closely with the Mayor's Office, Director of Skid Row Strategies, as well as other community stakeholders on, water access issues in the area. So we feel like we've learned a lot based on our interactions with those people.
Are all the hydration stations in Skid Row working now?
I believe they are.
Actually, if you don't mind, let me step in here for a second. So, as you may know, there was a report, there were 2 hydration stations, one on 4th Street and one on 5th Street that were not working. We were contacted the mayor's office and asked to see if we could assist. So I'm really happy to report that despite the fact that these are not DWP facilities, we actually got them fixed. So those 2 stations are operational now. What we discovered when we went out there is that, one, some of the copper tubing that was used to provide supply was basically cut and stolen and probably sold, unfortunately. So actually, I got to thank PCM, because it was the PCM plumbers that went out there and actually got the work fixed, the project done for us. And I do want to acknowledge those individuals. I'm going to wait until Kawana's done, but we do have several individuals that went out there and made it happen. So those 2 stations are operational. So I believe that all 8 stations now are operational.
And we replaced with copper again?
I don't know what they replaced it with, but I can tell you that they put an enclosure to make it more difficult for anybody to be able to take that. So we did make some changes, and we also put some of the stuff underground. So we did put measures in place to protect it from being stolen again.
Okay.
Thank you, Anselmo.
Sure.
So another source of water available to the community there are the climate relief stations. So these are temporary mobile units. They are climate stations. So in the summertime, they offer heat relief, and in the winter months, they're like warming centers. They provide access to community resources such as water, juice, information on, where to get help if you were to need it. The great things about these stations are that they are staffed 24/7. And actually, some community members receive jobs to be the people handing out the water. They're very sanitary. And these were, how we found out about them was a couple of years ago, where it was presented to us as a community-led initiative that was really designed as a Skid Row specific strategy, because this is truly a neighborhood that's unlike any other neighborhood, and they felt like they needed a Skid Row specific strategy to help. And so from our observations, this has been an ideal configuration. You don't have to worry about the vandalism, the damage, and that allows people to continuously have access to water, especially, during the hot months. We can add is that one challenge we've seen with these is that the RFP, or the funding, seems to be approved every year in July 1st. And so, as you know, it's usually a lot hotter before the contract has been initiated. So we would recommend, if there's an ability to do that contract a little bit earlier before the first heat wave, it would probably be able to provide more support to the community members.
I'm guessing July 1st is what
Fiscal year.
The city's budget. So.
Can we do multiple year contracts?
This year was the first year that they awarded the contract for 12 months. It used to be kind of temporary, focused on the summer. But I think, again, as Kawana mentioned, she's had a great relationship built up with the director of services, Jarvis Emerson, and I think we're at the drawing board to figure out maybe a multi-year thing, or certainly if they could figure out a way off of somebody's budget to fund it February, March of a year. That way everybody's got the lead time to kind of get things going. Our role in some of these would be if they need a temporary water meter, we can have that temporary water meter in place. But it just seems like every year around middle of July, there's a big scramble, and we really want to try to avoid that.
So the contract is not ours? The contract is not ours then?
It's not our contract currently.
But potentially there's some support you could get from inside EWP, from Paul's shop or others, in making it more of a priority in the city budgeting process.
I'd agree.
Especially since Matt's there now.
Right.
I think multi-year is the way. Multi-year would be the way to do it, simply because the idea of trying to change how the city does their budget is just nothing any of us want to get involved in.
No thanks.
No.
But it's a timing. I mean, there's going to be a push whenever that deadline, it ends and it starts again. But if there's a way to bridge it with a multi-year, that's one way. So if there's something we can do to help promote that, let us know, please.
Sure.
So here's another interesting project that has been supported by the hydration station program. and this is the LA Convention Center. We reimbursed 21 of the units there. So they use the electronic signage there, which is very good. They've had certain big events, big ticket events like the Super Bowl experience in 2022, and then also the Summit of Americas with the world leaders in 2023. So it really was great for us to showcase LADWP's high quality tap water on a global stage. And the most recent addition to our program are these mobile units. We were able to procure 3 mobile units that have been used throughout the city at community events. These have been very popular within the different communities. In June of this year, Rec and Parks used them on a temporary basis for one weekend at their summer concert series at Pershing Square, and they were able to give out over 1,500 cups of water. So that's 1,500 bottled water, plastic bottles that were not used. People were able to stay hydrated, and we really noticed that these units garner a lot of community interest. So in addition to just bringing a lot of access to water, they really are a good strategic marketing tool because we're able to highlight our programs and services and get people as excited about tap water as we are. Okay, so I know you asked about potential future projects that we have in the pipeline, so here's the slide. We are really looking at LA 28 venues. So we've met with the LA Coliseum, and they are interested in installing 40 units there in preparation for the upcoming Olympics. LAWA is also considering adding an additional 20 units there. And an interesting one is Griffith Park. They have a 7-mile hiking trail, and people typically get very, very hot. And so we'll actually be touring with them to look at ideal locations to add additional units.
Okay, all right, so as far as some of the next steps for our hydration stations and public program, of course, we're looking at all options for trying to support the 2026 World Cup, 2028 World Olympics, both the venues, also the metro hubs. Metro, we've had conversations with them. There's a little bit of a challenge for them to get water to the source, close to proximal to where their bus stops and things are, but we'll continue to work with them to ideally try to make this a car-free type Olympic experience. We did a customer focus group study when we first heard about the mayor's goal, the mayor's Green New Deal goal in 2020 for the hydration stations. We had a customer focus group to kind of hear from our customers what they thought about public hydration. And there were actually a couple key themes that they brought up. One was they wanted to know what was the water quality that was actually being served through the hydration station. And secondly, they wanted to know when was it last maintained, or what type of maintenance interval was being conducted on a particular unit. So I think hearing those comments, we're continuing to try to apply technologies that would allow us to have better opportunity to monitor the condition of the hydration stations, both water quality sensors, as well as perhaps like cameras and other things. I know there's some comments about nightmares, and Katie, to me, a nightmare is waiting in line at the airport, right? There's already enough stress, waiting in the line at the airport to finally get to the front end of the queue for a hydration station for only to be like dirty, yucky, or not working, right? So I think there's again, an opportunity and a real need to apply some of these kind of sensing and scanning technologies to allow us to try to best stay on top of the maintenance that's ultimately going to be needed if we expand the universe of public hydration stations. And actually, I think tying back to the board meeting that might have prompted this presentation, an inventory was done by Los Angeles Rec and Parks about 10 years ago of all the hydration stations they had in parks, and that number totaled about 1,150. And then, of course, if you add on top of that about 230 units that we've done through the hydration station initiative, that's about 1,300. But there's probably definitely room to grow, right? This is a 462 square mile city, and so I think there's definitely opportunities to expand, but being able to keep up with the maintenance and inspection of those would be a key thing. And again, evolving from just kind of periodic set maintenance intervals to maybe things that could be more triggered based on the actual conditions. Those are things we're looking forward to. And kind of last but not least, if you think about placements in locations like Peacock Theater down at LA Live, or maybe outside the Coliseum. These are great opportunities for a more larger scale type LED type hydration station where you can actually have maybe some marketing or have some information about the event that's going on, stats or scores from the World Cup or the Olympics, things like that. So I think you'll probably see a lot of those opportunities come up too. And last but not least, we're going to also look for additional partners, look for input from any of the senior managers or from the board as far as things we could do. I think I noticed Commissioner McGraw punching a calculator there. So if you said the remaining budget, 1.5 million, and a typical install between 10,000 or 5,000 each, that leaves you right now, as far as our current budget capacity, to add 150 to 300 units.
Yeah.
But if we find critical needs or other partners, we gladly get your suggestions and maybe come back to this board for approval to kind of enhance that.
Great.
Excellent.
Appreciate that. No,
So-
we'd love to know if we can help on that. Be more than happy to.
Yeah, and I think those mobile options are really excellent because of the flexibility, and I've definitely seen the communication, education potential there at different events, both the units you pictured, and then we also have that truck that's really great. And yeah, just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. In my other hat, and prior to being a commissioner, I did work with the team on some of the hydration stations at UCLA and had a really excellent experience. We really appreciated the support. It's a really great program. I know that one of the approaches to reduce the maintenance can be installing stations that don't have the filter, but that takes some education to the customers. I think really helping people understand that we have really high quality tap water and you don't need that extra cost and that extra addition to the hydration station can be helpful for the program and for helping our customers reduce their maintenance cost as well.
Yeah, it's a great point.
I'd like, thank you for the presentation. It's wonderful. I can't help but think that, and especially given the Olympics, that those blue tents that, they're the least attractive part of the whole, sort of setup. I mean, I think the water, those water sort of elements are great, but, I mean, I think a lot of people, if they need hydration, they're also really hot. Water doesn't do everything for them. So finding a way, and there's a lot of, I believe there's an architect and there are some architects on within DWP, just give them a little latitude. And, I know LA 28 has talked about wayfinding in Los Angeles, period. So you have the opportunity, people arrive, it's very spread out. So making them visible and providing shade and potentially sort of in the same way, sort of some geographic sense of where you are at that moment in time. So I wonder if they could be put together with bus stops, so they're a little longer, a little taller, and they do more for us. So just, anyway, thank you.
All great input. And I'll just point out that for those mobile hydration stations that Juana showed, they actually have a battery attached to them, so they can actually provide chilling, and as long as we recharge the battery at night. And again, I think observations on the climate relief stations down in Skid Row, they are putting the water in ice buckets. And I think that really enhances people's kind of value that they get from that replenishment, because it keeps things really chilled. So that's important. Great thoughts.
Yes.
Great.
Jonathan, you answered most of my questions already that I've been scribbling since the beginning of this presentation. And Quan, it's so nice to meet you. Thanks again for all the work you both have been doing in Watts. I was also going to use the airport anecdote. We've all been there, but I'm wondering inside the program what our recourse is to partners who fail to meet our requirements in terms of replacing filters, cleaning or maintaining systems. I mean, it's true. I'm on 3 flights a week, and every one of them I'm passing through a different terminal of LAWA and encountering a hydration station that is not operable, or not fully operable anyway. I know our spot checks must be turning stuff up. How do we hold them accountable to the agreement?
So I'll start. So For LAWA, we have only subsidized less than 20 units in the whole LAX.
Okay.
And so we do conduct spot checks, and we've actually spoken with them about the condition of the units, and we've, met with their maintenance team, and they are, monitoring them and cleaning them. I think it's very, very heavy usage. They are also looking at ways to improve the current infrastructure that they have there, so they're replacing a lot of units. I think that what the program does is we try not to be punitive, so we reach out to customers, and we believe that if we inform them on best practices and kind of do demonstrations if necessary, that's our first steps. We have not had to, but the program terms and conditions do allow us to request our funding back, but obviously that's not something that we would want to do.
It's also just not going to be a tremendous amount of money for 20 hydration stations anyway. But it's good to know, and it's very interesting. Most of these hydration stations include some level of filtration too, don't they?
There's an option to place a filter in. Some partners, for example, Rec and Parks, for the reasons mentioned by Commissioner KATZ, do not choose to use filters because it does increase the maintenance schedule.
Okay.
It's not needed. We've got
And in any
great
case,
water.
those filters would just be some carbon scrubbing for like the very end, basically for the user experience rather than the health and safety of the water.
Correct.
It's
Okay.
just a taste.
Well, the reason I ask that too is because I noticed we have some private partners in the partnership. Do we have any any requirements when someone signs up to the program that they do testing of their on-site plumbing to make sure their on-site plumbing is not contributing any contamination to the water we're feeding into the system?
So the program terms and conditions are that you have to serve high-quality water. And so obviously LEDWP's infrastructure does provide it to their meter. And so out of consideration of any issues that might come because of their premise plumbing, we offer our free water quality testing before they begin their project, just so they know if they need to do any remediation during the project. It's probably better to do it while you're going through the installation as opposed to after. Another thing that we do is after the unit is installed, we do post-installation testing as well before we're giving them, any money. We found that the pre-testing is very helpful, and partners do want to provide high-quality water, and so it's just the most straightforward way for them to get that information.
So there's a fail-safe there. We'll test that water coming out of the hydration station before it's operable, before it has our name all over it, to make sure we're not delivering anyone.
We test it going in,
Yeah.
and we test it coming out, and if they're different, we know exactly where the problem is.
Yeah, that's basically exactly what I was trying to get at, is making sure there was some mechanism to test it coming out before we. Obviously, I am really interested, Jonathan, in your ideas around IoT, Internet of Things, and stuff we can do to network these systems to deal with maintenance issues remotely and maybe update our signage. I think in my first or second week here, we had a conversation about what kind of real estate DWP had access to where we could do a better job of advertising our, for instance, water quality results, get people a little more confident in the city's water. I am super supportive, and I don't know what it's going to take, but there's just in our customer base of about 4 million, if you average out 232 hydration stations, that's an awful lot of people using every hydration station. I really do appreciate that these are, predominantly in marginalized communities or, frontline communities that need this access more than ever. But as you yourselves pointed out with, the World Cup and the Olympics and the All-Star Game and the Paralympics, all these things coming up, I think, the $1.5 million or the 2.2 and then 1.5 in contingency we have in the bank to do more of this work isn't nearly going to be enough. And so I wonder if there's an opportunity for us to work more closely with other cities who have done this maybe at a larger scale or maybe better than we have. I don't know if there are any cities in the U.S. who have done this better than we have. But I would hope that someday in Los Angeles, a public water fill station would be as prevalent as a public trash can. You should be able to walk a couple blocks and see a place to get access to water. It's especially in a city like this with temperature variability like we've seen this week. We got to get there, and I really appreciate that where this program is. But how do we put it on steroids?
Well, to your point, we have actually about 2 years to put it on steroids because it's coming in 2 years.
Yeah.
As a precursor to the Olympics coming, and we ought to have a lot more filtration stations all over the place by then.
Yeah, I mean, even setting an ambitious goal for, I don't know, we want to have 2028 by 2028. Don't
We were
panic.
just doing the tally. I think we can get there, so we'll work on that. But yeah, definitely.
Especially when I'm set as a goal if we know we can get there.
Yeah. Preferably only if we know we can get there.
I think one of the important points is, do we always need to have a partner, right? Because the mobile stations we own, like, do we want to own more that are owned and maintained by us? And how many of those do we own today? And what would be the bottleneck to that?
Right, and that's correct. That's why we would hope that some of the other city departments get a chance to trial our units. And if they're interested in it, they can definitely almost get one for free because of our reimbursement. In fact, it is free, but it nets out. But I know Ensemble gets a lot of email traffic about asking for maintenance on things that aren't really ours. So I think it's in that spirit that it really can help us be more efficient in doing all the other things that we need to do as opposed to taking care of everybody.
Have we worked internally with our own real estate department to understand where we might be able to install these on sites that we already own throughout the city, both on the water system and the power system side? It seems like it'd be pretty easy to pop one of these up on every piece of land that we own at least. Well, maybe pretty easy is a little bit of an exaggeration, but
Just trying to find
easier than
The
finding a
moment you
partner
dig a
in each of
little,
those
it's hazmat drill.
Yeah. We do have hydration stations at LEDWP facilities. That is something that we have explored, and we can continue to reach out to internal support groups and see how we can expand the program within our own LEDWP footprint.
It'd also be nice, frankly, to see LAX play a larger role since there's some discussion about whether any money can be ever taken off LAX property based on federal government requirements and lawyers' interpretations of it. But at a minimum, that means that, projects like this should be supported by LAX and the revenue that comes into LAX. I mean, we're obviously putting up some of these stations because we want to get it done, but LAX has resources, that could be used and they can't be used anywhere else. So something that we ought to be pursuing.
I have one more question on the HSIP incentives. Do we currently have incentives if organizations wanted to do the mobile stations? Because it seems like for a lot of organizations that host large events, outdoor stations can be really challenging if you don't have the right piping in the right places. So the mobile solution seems like a great solution for some of our customers as well. Is there provisions within the current program to support that? And if not, could we consider that?
Right. It falls within the purview of the program, and I think that we've made the most progress, I guess, with Rec and Parks, because as Kawana alluded to, they had a chance to try that at their concert series this year, and they kind of realized how effective it was. And given that they have so many events throughout the city, it kind of behooves them to have some units. And again, we've offered as much.
They are investing in mobile units?
Right, and we'll help them get the specification so that they can prepare an award, different things like that, so.
Great.
So Jonathan, sounds like the commissioners are asking us to be very creative on options and volumes. So they just gave you permission to go to town on this one.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the support.
I wanted to ask about if you actually have information in several languages, because I think not only for potential visitors, but within the city, whether it's English and Spanish and some other language, so that people are, of a certain age, especially older people, who really could benefit.
Currently, our program collateral is in English and I believe Spanish, but we could definitely explore other languages if that will help more people.
Yeah, you don't have to do 20, but, a little more it's just.
So, as I recall, your second biggest customer is LA County. What opportunities are there for collaborating with LA County on these types of projects? Since LA County covers we're about a third of their area.
I think that's an interesting idea because they do have large parks and other facilities throughout the city. So that's something that we're happy to reach out to LA County, Again, all these great ideas, we're more than happy to explore them. And it looks like we might need additional budget because I know that 1.5 million is going to deplete pretty quickly. But thank you for that idea.
Well, but following up on Janice's comment, I think she interpreted correctly what the board was saying. We'd like to see this as a major initiative. And if we think you're overreaching, we'll let you know, but don't worry about it.
Okay, noted.
Other
Now the
comments?
fun begins.
Jonathan, do you have one more slide or no?
Oh, yeah. That's,
There you go.
so, yeah, go ahead, Anselmo.
Well, I wanted to highlight teamwork here because, like I mentioned before, we did recently fix a couple of hydration stations in Skid Row.
Right.
And it couldn't be done without having support from a whole bunch of different people. And I want to take the opportunity and recognize some of those individuals today because they handled the business and they got it done really quickly and just in time too because of all the heat. So, like I said, PCM provided a plumbing shop, great support there. Mike Nering and Mike Navarro, who are supervisors, and also the crew that was out there, Dan Cameron Sr., Daniel Adams, and Oscar Gonzalez. They were all the folks that were out there working on this. But I also want to thank my staff and recognize them because it took a lot of collaboration and a lot of coordination too with multiple city agencies, not only the mayor's office, but LAPD, the Skid Row Services, and also a nonprofit, a community-based organization called 5 Keys. So on my staff, Christy Serrano, Koana Key, who's here, Wynn,
Sorry. Udom Purge.
Thank you. I messed it up the first time too. Also, Stephen Crumbly, as well as Kajal Parbu, the Kajal's here, as well as Serge Haddad, who's the Assistant Director in Water Quality, and Jonathan Leung. It took a lot of folks to work on that, and I'm very proud of the work they do because they care a lot about the quality of the water that we serve our customers and provide significant support to them. So thank you to all, and thank you to PCM.
Thank you very much. I want to come back anytime. Jonathan, so, but no, no, just keep up the great work. What you do is really important and makes a difference in people's lives. All right, moving along. Reports, commissioner reports, filed items. We have minutes from last time?
Yes.
Motion and a second on approving the minutes from the last meeting?
Second.
I guess, no, I wanted to briefly bring something up, and that's N2 and how easily, yeah, I mean, it's, we could talk about it later, but, well, I mean, it's a very large contract. Without sort of an overview, it's hard to know how it's just a very big contract. And I have in the past talked to Evelyn and Anselmo that I would really want to, understand it better. It's, it's along the river. It's an important, it's really an important part of the system. It replaces Silver Lake. I know all these pieces, but what does it look like? Like what, like we're talking about hydration stations and we have a clear idea what the thoughts are. I just find it, and I know it went through SECO and everything else, but the question is, what is it, if it's accessible to the public as a park, what is it exactly?
And Selma, I'd be interested also in a briefing. Would you be open to a meeting with, Commissioner LEHRER and I in providing a more detailed briefing on the Headworks project?
We can absolutely do that, Commissioner. Just for clarity purposes, all that's being approved today, or what was approved, was the CEQA document, the M&D. We are working on putting out a contract for the design for Headworks. So that will be coming to the board at some point for your consideration. And we can certainly, prior to that, set up a briefing and lay out basically what facilities we're looking at, a building there, separate from the water storage facilities.
Yes, of course.
We have the water quality lab. We also have some open space that we're building there for community access, and also our demonstration facility for direct portable reuse. So we can certainly have that briefing at some point. I will set it up.
Thank you.
I was also going to say that attached to the CEQA documents also are 4 or 5 documents in a lot of detail about what's being built out there as well.
Okay.
So that's in your the packets that you have for this meeting. So, okay, but we're on the minutes. So,
Maybe I missed that.
so without,
Thank you.
Sure. Without objection, all members present being recorded as aye votes. The minutes are approved. Motions for future neighborhood council.
One community impact statement was received from Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council. No representative is present. The community impact statement has been published on LEDWP.com for public record and was included in the commissioner's briefing materials.
Okay, great. Thank you. Item M. Who did M?
There was nothing pulled special, so everything's done there.
So I think I've got closed session and. I think that's all I have left. Closed session, please. Okay. Ben, you're up.
I'm up. All right, the board shall publicly report any action taken in closed session and the vote or abstention of every member present thereon in accordance with section 54957.1 of the California Government Code.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. We'll go into closed session and then just report out after that. But other than that, the meeting will be concluded after closed session.